the other recorder.
Down there, you got the recorder?
Jesse's scowling at it.
Powering up. It's on.
Okay, we are Village of Minerva Park Council meeting November 10th, 2022, 7 p.m. Starting with roll call. Councilperson Cost.
Hold on.
Present. Councilperson Tresla.
Present.
Councilperson Camera.
Present.
Council President Wolf.
Here.
Councilperson Berger.
Here.
And Councilperson McNamara. Present. Thank you. And Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hurry up.
We have two set of meeting minutes. The first one is October 27th, council meeting minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? Anything? Okay, we're good. November 3rd, work session minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Let's go to village official reports, starting with Chief Delp with the police department.
I don't have any additional to the report that was submitted,
Okay.
but if anyone has any questions, I can try to answer them this time.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Chief? Anybody has any questions? Free to
Yeah.
One.
go.
Just a clarifying question. When we talk about the police reports, these are actual reports that someone sat down with an officer and filed and gave a statement and was, if I just call and say, I saw something over here, does that make it into the report?
No.
And so I have to follow up on that.
Actual filed report.
I have to actually, so if I just, I saw someone hit a car and drive away or whatever, you're probably gonna investigate that and a report will be filed and not be talked about, but just making a phone call doesn't generate a report.
Correct.
Okay, just clarifying that, for reasons.
Okay. If anybody has any questions for Chief, feel free to email him at any time. Next is our fiscal officer, Jeffrey Wilczek. We had meetings first thing this morning, so we've all had a really long day. So he is not here. We have gone over the previous meeting at 6 p.m. We went over our budget. We've gone over it now a couple times. So I will have Council President Wolf go over any additional finance in the committee reports. Next is Mike Flickinger's engineer report. And it's on my phone, so let's skip that. Let's go to legal. I'm going to come back to Mike Flickinger's report because I do have it. And it's very minimal this time. So let's move to legal. Jesse, do you have anything?
Nothing specific to report. You do have tonight before you resolution 2022-33. That is, it's a resolution on the TURC, and that's shorthand for the Tax Incentive Review Council. The revised code requires any municipality that grants tax exemptions to annually get together, review that tax exemption, and to make sure it's complying with the original plan. That has now been done, and so we have to forward our recommendation to the state or the county. We are requesting it to waive readings and pass by emergency. One, because there's really nothing. It's just a resolution will become effective immediately. There's nothing to referenda on it. And two, it's the first year we did it, and we along with I think 19 or 20 other municipalities and townships missed the state deadline. So we're just hoping to get that turned into that as quickly as possible. Any questions on it? Let me know.
Okay. Going back to Mike Flickinger's report. Task order number 18 is the 2021 storm sewer improvement project. The contractor's work is complete. Their final pay application was submitted for payment. And there are a few miscellaneous closeout items and GIS updates to complete the work. Task order number 20 is the 2022 storm sewer improvement project. It says we met with the village planner director, the property owner for 5454 Cleveland Avenue, and the property owner's design professional to discuss potential projects on that site, as well as the potential conveying of their storm sewer to the village. This goes in line with getting that project done a little bit more efficiently. We would own that sewer, so we could continue to move forward on that project. We continue with detailed design, developing contract drawings for review with the village and to coordinate parcel-specific issues with each property owner. And they will continue to coordinate with the surveyor on easement work as well. And that is all of his report. Again, we met with Mike Flickinger first thing this morning. We spent about 3 to 4 hours going over all of the projects that are completed and all of the projects that we will be moving forward with. I don't know if Stacy's going to mention this in her report, but I'll go ahead and say it. Flowline is no longer going to be a business and not doing that project for us that we had already approved this year. So that project has been put on hold. That is for our CCTV, storm and sanitary. So we are actively looking for someone else to do that work, but it is not going to happen in 2022. It will be moved to 2023, and we will bring that back to council once we have a new vendor to do that project. And that is all for Mike Flickinger's report. If anybody has any questions, they can always feel free to email myself or Stacy, Councilperson Koss. Any questions, we can always give it to Mike Flickinger or ask him. I do plan on having Mike Flickinger at the January and or February meeting to go over, we are expecting the 2022 storm sewer improvement project to have quite a bit of detail before the end of the year, because we are planning to get that project done in 2023, so we want to bring him in to go over more detailed information instead of hearing it from us, more from him. So that is Mike Flickinger's report, engineer. I skipped going to ask if anybody had any questions for legal, and if no one does, then we will move to the next one. But does anybody have any questions for legal? Okay. Eric Fisher, Village Planner.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Same updates as I gave everyone at the work session. The work on the foundations, concrete, and site work will begin next week at the new buildings. So you'll see a lot of movement of machinery at that time. And then the school district is bringing forward their plans for the work on the rear of Hawthorne next to our pool for the new track and football field, and everything regarding that, bleachers, etc. That would be at our December 14th EAC meeting. That's all I have.
You said December 14th.
December 14th, yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Eric Fisher, Village Planner? Zoning officer's report is in your packet. If anybody has any questions for John Canty, feel free to email him at any time, or you can reach out to me as well, and I can always forward anything to him. But you guys do all have his zoning report, and it's also uploaded online as well. Next, we have planning and zoning. Council President Wolf.
Yep, Planning and Zoning's meeting was canceled this month, so there is nothing to report. The next meeting is scheduled for December 14th,
7 p.m. here.
7 p.m. Here, yeah, at Minerva Place.
Perfect.
As far as I know.
As far as that's why I asked. She's shaking her head, so the answer is yes.
Okay.
Next, we have MPCA Councilperson Tresta.
So MPCA had their meeting last night, very informative, a few changes for this year. Great Halloween event, they had over 60 children, some wonderful and creative costumes. They are continuing to expand their need for memberships right now and just getting people to renew. Online portal, if you're a member and you need to renew, or if you're new to the village and you'd like to join our wonderful community association, you can do that right online. Holiday party or trolley all the way happening December 11th for 2 hours. These trolleys are heated, so you don't really have to worry about the cold. Minerva Park residents only at this time. You know, if chances that maybe some seats open up, then we'll push that then. But as of right now, it's Minerva Park residents only. Big news is luminaries have been canceled for this year. It is not a good thing. You know, we're all seeing rises in costs, and this is just a very big cost for our community association. So with what they have left, they're going to be decorating the entrances and around the lakes and stuff, but they are going to be posting what you need to do do to make these, and I know quite a few of my neighbors make them every year, and it doesn't seem to be a big deal. So I still think it's something that we should aim to continue to do. We just can't do that through MBCA. That's it. Join your wonderful community association today.
I have a question. So, is there justification as to why this all kind of changed the trolley?
As what changed? So I know what
So
you're
why
asking.
we're doing the trolleys instead
Instead of
of?
the horses?
Mhm.
Well, honestly, someone, they kind of let it slide. They
So we
did
didn't
not-
book them in time, or it's a budgetary thing?
I think a little bit of both. I think when they did, usually they have the same company. I think when they did inquire about it, it was already too late and the
Okay.
carriages were already drawn out. These things book for 2-3 years in
Yeah.
advance. So I think it's a little bit of that with the budget as well. I think it's a
Okay.
mixture of both, for sure.
So, yeah, I guess my question, the reason I'm asking is, is it something that we need to consider, in our budget for the MPCA or things like that? Like, did you bring that up at all for next year?
We did talk a little bit about it.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, can everybody hear? Okay. So this is a trial run for the MBCA. This is a trial run, we're seeing how it goes. You know, the 2-hour trolleys are a lot better than, the carriage rides. They take forever. Thank you, Dave, I appreciate you. They take forever to, go around. These trolleys fit more people. I think the total number was like 326 people that we could get in this 2-hour time frame. They're heated, we're just they're testing it this year. Just trying, because again, they've had the carriage rides forever, so it's a new thing to them. So they're really trying, but that's a little bit of the backstory.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I missed the location. Where are those trolleys going to be?
So we're doing it, the holiday party is actually at the school. And I think that I don't know if they've decided
The
exactly what they're
school?
doing.
Hawthorne.
Hawthorne, and that's where they're gonna have their normal stuff set up.
Okay.
Is this gonna be like a traffic issue?
I wouldn't think so
Probably
that late
not.
at night.
The trolleys, I think, are much,
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the trolleys are much faster. I believe the ride is only gonna be about
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah,
Versus-
they're a lot faster.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're gonna be on a trolley for about, and don't quote me on that, but that's kind of what I heard, that it would go like every 10
I
minutes.
think you're correct.
So yeah, I would assume they go around normal speed, and which is 25 for anybody not listening, so 25 or less.
To make sure that they don't speed.
Like max. We will be making sure that they're not
Can we
speeding.
run a speed trap?
Budget for next year?
Maybe that's not funny.
We refer to that as a trolley trap.
So,
Got it, I solved all the budget issues, guys.
Okay, so I assume that they have the signups online. I feel like I saw something
No.
online, not yet.
No,
Okay.
what was the date? I know that they haven't set an official date, but they're thinking probably within like a week or two, and they're gonna do it like in waves, they're thinking. Again, they're still working out the details.
Exactly.
So
So
I
watch
would
for it.
say within the next 2 weeks, be watching that page and make sure you get them, because once they're out, they're out.
Perfect. That is awesome. So watch the NBCA Facebook page. I'm assuming they'll
Yes.
update it, and if not, they'll yell at me for saying that. So, but we're
They can
assuming.
yell at me. I think you're right. I think you're right.
Okay, let's go let's stick with Councilperson Tresta for communications.
Oh,
Fine.
you okay?
Yes, I'm fine, but that was surprising. So someone undid my screws in my chair.
Oh my god.
So that's my screws being taken out.
There's another chair.
So we're gonna save that.
Here you go, here you go. Good.
Thank you.
Glad you're not injured.
Yes, I know, that could have been bad.
Are you okay?
Someone did that. Communications, still waiting on response. I know I talked to Eric Fisher and Pete about that. We haven't got a response, so we're still working on that survey, so we can get started with that, hopefully as soon as possible. The direct control legislation that we are reading right now, we're gonna do pamphlets. I'm working with the chief, we're gonna do pamphlets in the cruisers. That way when we see dog owners outside, we can just get them to update them on the change that's going on and the village with that. Chatting with council, we had a great turnout. We are going to be posting again to pick up topics that people want to talk about and see, so be looking out for that post. And definitely hoping that we can keep up that attendance going on. And that's it.
Perfect. Anybody have any questions for communications?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
I mean, a lot of us attended the chatting with council. I do want to ask everybody to be more respectful of everybody here. I personally thought that we could be kinder to each other at that last meeting, especially since we all have a goal in mind of like we're neighbors and we want to, improve our neighborhood together. So I know I've lost sleep over this. I know all of us has really affected us, and I just want everybody to be reminded we're humans with feelings, and just be kind. We're all trying to do our best. So just a nice reminder, that's all.
I think that's a good reminder.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Council President Wolf for Finance.
Hey, that's me.
That is
All
you.
right. Finance Committee met this month and last month. We've largely been talking about the 2023 fiscal budget. That budget has been hammered out. Tonight, I believe, is the first reading for that annual appropriations. For those who've been following along through particularly last work session, if you listened to that or read the minutes, there were no substantial changes beyond that conversation. And so that's where it's at.
Perfect. Anybody have any questions? Love that. Okay, Councilperson Cost for Streets.
So, can you hear me with this? Yeah? Okay, cool. I'm notorious for not being heard. Just to kind of piggyback on what Mike's report is, we're still working on that. I had a conversation with the resident that had a special situation involving a trust, so we're working on that just to make sure that everything, we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's in regards to the Jordan Road project. We did talk about funding, so we're kind of good with that. Flow line, disappointing. I think that email came through a couple days ago that they will no longer be in business as of December, so we can't use them. So we kind of have to start from scratch with that, which is disappointing because that sets our project back a little bit in regards to scoping some areas of the village to make sure they're still in good repair, so we can plan for that. The other thing is we added some money to the budget so we can add some more signs with children playing. So just to make our neighborhood a little bit safer. So we're working on that. Questions, comments, concerns?
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions for Councilperson Cost? Okay. Councilperson Camera for Community.
Yep, so no meeting since our last council meeting, but I will point out that the flower beds have been weeded and landscaped. Mulch has been put down around all the entrances and around the pond, so they look a lot nicer than they did. And then it looks like the next meeting is planned for December 5th at 7 p.m. for community. That's all.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Councilperson Cameron? Councilperson McNamara for Safety.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There has not been a meeting since our last, but in a safety-related concept, the hopefully impending passage of the direct control rules will, I see it as being a benefit for safety and community, so looking forward to seeing that implemented.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Councilperson McNamara? All right. Councilperson Ruger for Legislation.
Our next legislative meeting is next week, actually, the 17th, before council. Coming soon to legislation. Actually, we're going to be starting reading some of that now. This evening for first readings is our budget for next year. And then, although it was already mentioned by Councilperson Shrestha, I will mention the new one we're doing is a first reading tonight for animals under direct control, which is an update of our leash law, leash ordinance, redefining what it means to be allowed to have a dog not on an end of a leash. And I will just throw that was mostly Councilperson Shrestha who that was really important to her and who did most of the legwork and got that put together for us. And that's pretty much legislation.
Perfect. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Councilperson Berger? Okay. Mayor's report. We've kind of gone through quite a bit already, so the only thing I'm going to hit on right now is leaf pickup. Westerville posted a great little reminder that Westerville has reached a 10-year high for leaf fall already. As you can imagine, it's causing some curbside collection delays. We are no different. Our contractor has been out 3 times already this week, and he was actually out 5 days last week. He was out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. They are doing the best that they can do at this point in time, but as you guys can probably see, a lot of the leaves have already fallen. Please, this is not in direct to anybody in particular, but don't park in front of the leaves. If you're parking in front of the leaves, the sucker cannot get back in there to get it done. And yes, I just called it a sucker again. It's called what, a vacuum?
A vacuum.
So the vacuum cannot get in there to do that. So be courteous to your neighbors, and some people it's their own cars, but if it is parked in front of there, they will go right by it and he will not come back until the next time. So just please keep that in mind. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks, it'll be completely gone way before the end of the season. But we have until mid-December. I think it's the 17th. Don't quote me on that. But it is mid-December, so you have plenty of time to get your stuff out to the street. Last but not least, do not put them in the street. Put them to the edge of the curb. They do rake them a little bit, and do not put large sticks in there. Mark, I know you were gonna say it. So do not put large sticks in there. It does mess up the vacuum. And that's it. That is my mayor's report for right now. And I'm sure we'll have other stuff for old business, new business that we can call that. So let's move to citizen comments.
Good. So this is the point of the meeting where we invite residents or people who are in attendance to address council. We ask that you come up to the podium, give us your name, your address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak your piece.
Tony Benedetti, 2937 Irving Court. Tonight I passed out a copy of the green space plan.
Would you like the microphone so they can hear you
Yeah.
back? Because I'm
Stop the clock.
I'm pausing
Yeah.
it, don't you worry.
because especially with your back to them, there's no way that the microphone back there is picking you up.
Hold it up a little bit.
Yeah, I still can't hear.
Oh, you're fine.
I'm Tony Benedetti, 2937 Berry Lane Court. Tonight I passed out a copy of the green space plan that I was given when I requested that. And, this really isn't the green space plan. This is just something that this is like the beginning of the green space plan. Tonight I'd like to go over what I remember being on the green space plan. I'd like to start on the left side where the basketball courts are at. Because in the original plan, that was one of the locations for the shelter, was beside the basketball court. And then above that's the playground. In that area, we had talked about adding more playground equipment and some landscaping to buffer the noise from the houses nearby. Then if you go over to the active park area, that's the other location that was discussed about for a shelter. Now, if I knew that Brady was in favor of that as a spot for the shelter, I would have said something at the planning and zoning meetings when we decided to approve the other location. The other location for a shelter that doesn't show up on the map, which is probably why you don't see this, is the pickleball court being beside the pool area. Now, those are the 3 areas that I recall being discussed about possibilities for a shelter location. Now, there was a planning and zoning meeting, which I think, Mark, that was one that you showed up to, out at the playground area. Now, the mayor's the one who suggested that we put she started the conversation about the next thing we're gonna do is shelter somewhere. And we had suggested space beside the basketball court. There was some pushback to that. And the mayor said, well, how about we do it on the other side of the road by the playground? So, you know, when the mayor says that she has, you know, this is what planning and zoning approved, it was more like, this is what the mayor recommended, and no one else really disagreed with it. Because as you had heard at the meeting, Brady felt a better place was at the park area. As did I. That's where I would like to see a shelter at. So, you know, the big question.
What area was that?
The active park area.
It's too swampy, they can't build it.
You know, that's where, you know, it's in a low spot. It wouldn't be as noisy. I mean, it's down in a lower area where it wouldn't affect the residents nearly as much as the proposed site. Now, the big question I have is why? Well, and there's other things. We talked about picnic, we talked about a connecting path from Jordan Road. None of these things appear on this plan that we're looking at today. We talked about Frisbee golf. There was an article in Westfield Magazine that said that they were going to do Frisbee golf here. And so at the school, it was called Minerva Magazine, and they actually said that they were talking about doing Frisbee golf at the school. So out of all the things that we talked about doing in the planning and zoning meetings, I'm trying to understand why an outdoor place to have a party is the top priority. The first thing that we move forward on is a shelter to provide outdoor spaces for a party. In my opinion, out of all the things that planning and zoning talked about, I would like to see, number one, playground equipment near the playground. The community is full of new families that have little kids. If you go over there now, oftentimes it's standing room only. You can't get on any equipment. So if you want to do something that would benefit the most residents in the village, I believe it should be playground equipment, and then talk about pickleball. I don't know whether you guys have ever noticed, every week I hear something about pickleball. Again, this is something I think that would serve more of the residents than a place to have an outdoor party. The problem with the location you're talking about is parking. That, you know, if we used to have big outdoor events at Glendon Woods with my family at a shelter just like this. Because there were so many people, that was the only place you could really have it at, was an outdoor location. So why would someone have a party at a place where there's no parking, no place to go to the bathroom? That's another thing that was on the plan, is that we recommend, or one of the possibilities was a porta potty at the playground area. Now, the mayor and Mark have been the only person I've heard to object.
Thank you very much, Mr. Benedetti. Your time has elapsed.
You guys are doing great here.
I also oppose a porta potty. Just, I've talked about how I don't want a porta potty.
You're one too?
Can I answer a couple of these
Yeah,
quickly
yeah,
before we
sure.
go to the next one?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna go.
let's address some of this stuff.
I'm not gonna go too in-depth in this, but we have a document from 2020 that was not my document. This is actually way before me, that Reserve E is to have a shelter house south of the basketball court. This was not my idea. I know I keep getting credit for it, and thank you for it, because I do think it's a great idea. But this is not my document that I did. This is before my time. So Reserve E shelter house south of the basketball court. It's actually listed on here a couple times.
Is that the MI
Yes.
developer that suggested?
Yes.
Okay.
And just to your point that this is the priority, actually, according to this map, we've already done the lily pond. There's only about 5 things on here. We've already done the lily pond, and the amphitheater is in full force. So there's actually not much on here other than the sledding hill that we haven't done. So this is not, this particular thing I don't believe was actually the priority. Again, just clarifying a couple things, and maybe I'm wrong. The other parts of the parking, I do want to point out, as far as the amphitheater goes, you know, the overflow lot at the community building is less than a quarter of a mile from the basketball court and from the playground. It is actually only 700 feet from the amphitheater. So when you walk around from the path, when you're parking at, one of the concerns that I had initially was for the amphitheater as well, how you're gonna get there. The amphitheater, again, is only 700 feet from the basketball court. You're literally talking a 1 to 2 minute walk. So for anybody that wanted, if there was a lot of parking, you could actually park at the community building and walk over. And that would be for anybody playing basketball as well, or anything like that. But whether we have a shelter house or not, I do want to remind people how close the community building actually is. So again, regardless of how we move forward on that, I'm just pointing out a couple facts. Last but not least, okay. The only other thing that I would say, and Brady, did acknowledge this as well, is accessibility to the area, that other active park, would be very difficult for a lot of residents to be able to get down in that area.
You can walk from the parking lot.
No, I'm not saying that, but that was one of the things, you have to go down that hill, or it's actually a very difficult place to get to, and that was what planning and zoning had come up to. It is a great place, and I hope eventually we have multiple shelter houses throughout the village, as well as gazebos, things like that people would be able to actually utilize. Again, dream world for me. I would love to see where Brady wants as well, and I would love to see a gazebo by the lake. I would love to see lots of things. So we have another person here. I'm not sure if you guys wanted to speak as well.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Wait, can I say one thing about the parking situation? So the active park area, I think Brady has talked about how it's kind of a swamp and it's really hard
I
to
just walked.
put something there. But the other thing is like, think about the parking situation there. That's even worse, so why would we put it there?
You just said it's okay to walk from the
Look, it's-
community.
Right, but to the active park area.
Hold on, this is citizens' comments time, so this isn't back and forth time. I think that we have another resident here who is looking forward to addressing council. We should afford them that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Good evening, my name is Gregory Ramey, I'm at 3016 Quiet Brook Vale. I think I wrote most of your letters, my wife and I, over the past few days, and again, thank you for the opportunity. I will not repeat what I said in the letter or go over in much detail. I just want to say, as someone new to the community, none of our neighbors, to the best of my knowledge, knew anything about this structure. We are most affected by what you do. And perhaps some part of that responsibility is on us as new members who have, gone to the website and found out more about what you were doing. Although I must say, it's a little disheartening to think that such a major project that would have such a major impact on those of us who live right there, that there might not have been opportunity for some reach out to us and simply ask the question, what do you think? And to involve us a little bit more prior to a decision being made, rather than saying, we'll come to you to ask whether or not you prefer a fence or some type of trees. So what I'm asking you tonight is, what I've learned in the 2 years we've been here, it's an amazing community. People are friendly. I look at the chief, we love the police, they wave to us every morning when we're sitting on the porch. We're both retired, so we spend a lot of time kind of hanging around. We see a lot of stuff that goes on, some not so good. Over there, I know I should have mentioned basketball court, but stuff happens there that never gets reported. What I'm asking you to do tonight, it seems to me that a structure like this should be a gift that the community can celebrate, not a burden that is being perceived so negatively by at least a significant number of people. And for those of you who were at the meeting the other day, you heard us raise questions and concerns, and maybe we just don't know the right answer. I have a hard time understanding what's the rush. And the question I asked in my letter is the last thing I'm going to say tonight. Might it not be better to take a step back, rather than take a step and approve this tonight, which only increases the animosity and the divisiveness, as if we don't have enough of that already in our society? Might it not be better to try to maintain the spirit of cooperation and consensus rather than confrontation? What is lost by holding back a little bit and maybe revisiting some of these issues with direct involvement of community members, rather than rushing forward, creating more tension that we really don't need, we really don't want, and it's not really within the amazing spirit of what we have experienced over the past 2 years. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And thank you, Tony. I don't know if I said thank you for that.
And I
just-
will just real quick
Go ahead.
mention two things. One, it is not on the agenda for any sort of passage tonight. I'm not sure how that got out. It's not.
it was never planned to be on the agenda, and
No.
I've never planned to have it on there before January.
The
So-
other thing I'll mention as to, because I heard a lot of people saying, why the rush? This project's been in the works for over 2 years. It comes from multiple residents working on it, on a committee, planning and zoning to be exact, which is all made up of residents, who spent 2 years to come up with their recommendation. This isn't something that just got decided recently. This isn't something that residents of the village have not already sat down, studied, and come up with that this was the best option for it.
Don't forget other alternatives too.
So I was just gonna say that, we're not gonna get into things, because I believe,
There are at least 3 other residents in
Oh,
attendance.
there
this
are?
evening. Does
We keep
anybody else
forgetting about them.
care to address council?
if they wanna address council, we'll
Yes,
just talk.
they're residents.
They're all residents, and this is citizens' comments.
Yeah,
No? All right. If no one else cares to address council at this time, then we can move on to the next section of the meeting.
okay. Excuse me. A whole slew of ordinances to get read tonight. First one is ordinance number 30, 2022, an ordinance to amend the codified ordinances of the Village of Minerva Park to include section 618.20 regarding keeping certain animals under direct control. The long and short of that is currently our code says any dog outside of fenced-in property has to be on a leash or under reasonable control. This scraps the word reasonable control and replaces it with direct control, and then also gives an example of what direct control is. Chief, do you wanna, because I can't remember it all, do you remember it all, or is it Nikki who's gonna remember it all?
And even Jesse, because I think Jesse wrote it.
So Jesse, what are the qualifications for direct control?
Put him on the spot.
Yeah, it probably is, and I just realized Exhibit A is attached, and I could have just read it.
Direct control means the animal responds to commands from its owner, including to come, sit, and stay.
I didn't see this one.
And so if you're out there without a dog and someone wants to say, hey, call that dog to you, let him sit, not someone, an officer of the Minerva Park Police, and you can't demonstrate control, you would then, of course, be asked to please leash your dog. That is just a first reading, so it has been read. Ordinance 32, anybody? All right. Ordinance 32, 2022, an ordinance to make appropriations for the current expenses of the Village of Minerva Park for the year 2023. This is just a first reading. Moving on. Ordinance 33, 2022, an ordinance updating the wage and salary ranges, the number of employees and positions for the Village of Minerva Park, and declaring an emergency. However, this is, don't get all excited, we plan to declare an emergency on this, so it can take effect January 1. However, we have plenty of time for the 3 readings. That was the first. Ordinance 34, 2022, an ordinance establishing health care benefits for employees and the mayor and authorizing the purchase of health insurance and declaring an emergency. Again, this is just the first reading. We will have this read by the end of December. It will be most likely attempted at least to be passed as an emergency so that health insurance for our employees can start on January 1 and not have a lapse. All right, first reading. First reading number, what am I on, like the number 4 here? Ordinance 35, 2022, an ordinance to rescind Ordinance 23, 2015, EMS vehicle and related equipment fund, and to declare an emergency. For those of you who are new, we used to have a part-time EMS in the village. And part of that, we had a fund that we would put money into to pay people and to buy big fancy ambulance trucks. We no longer need that fund, as we no longer have that. That is also first reading. Moving on, ordinance 36, 2022. An ordinance to establish funds and to declare an emergency. Oh, he's not here.
You can ask, maybe.
Well, this is just,
Funds are.
I know stuff.
yeah, oh, I'm sorry, this is to create a new fund, sorry, I was just looking down on it, to be assigned, siloed, however you want to think of it, for pool improvements, and start putting money away for when the pool eventually, you know, cracks in half because it's like 70 years old.
It's vintage.
Don't fix this.
Once that.
Well, you know, you plan for it, you say it, and then the bad stuff never happens. It's when you don't think the bad stuff's gonna happen, that's when it gets you.
That's true.
All right, ordinance 37, that's why you never hope for a snow day. Ordinance 37, 2022. An ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for the current expenses of the Village of Minerva Park for the year 2022. And we are just doing a first reading on this one, I believe, as well. So that has been read. Resolution 2022-31, a resolution adopting the rules of council for the council of the Village of Minerva Park for 2023. This is just a first reading. Every year we have to adopt the rules of council again for ourselves. The only real notable thing here is, as of now, we plan to maintain the changes that moved council meetings from Monday nights to Thursday nights.
And there's an updated calendar.
And there's an updated calendar attached to that. No.
We'll have discussions on this.
We'll have discussions at work session. This is just the first reading. So I guess for those of you out there who are real tense about it, we have not finalized what the handbook's going to be. So far, the only change isn't really a change from this year, but a change from years past. Next, we have Resolution 2022-32, a resolution authorizing the mayor and fiscal officer to enter into various reoccurring contracts necessary for the continuous operation of the village and declaring an emergency. This is a first reading. We generally have a list of various service providers. Let me cross out flow line there. Who that we do not have to, that we authorize the mayor to enter contracts to because we use them often enough that we know we need them and know who they are. That way we don't have to pass new resolutions every time every contract's entered into. That is a first reading.
Good catch.
Transparency's sake, I can't imagine anybody would desire to weed through this list of contractors, but is that available anywhere?
Oh, yeah, it's on.
Yeah, it's on here.
It's right on the other, it's right in the center of the resolution.
I must have missed that.
Jacobs
Yep.
is misspelled.
Yes.
Is that a problem?
Jacobs is misspelled, so
Yeah.
you need to check that, she says.
There's no C in there.
All right, so we found a typo, yay! All right, resolution number 2022-33, a resolution accepting, approving, and ratifying the submitted recommendation of the Tax Incentive Review Councils and declaring an emergency. I believe this is one that we need to waive the readings, but it is not listed there. This was talked about earlier by our legal counsel. We missed the deadline. We had the meeting. We have the minutes from the meeting. They are attached somewhere, I believe, although I don't have them here. Because I have the streamline packet. All we are doing is saying, oops, we forgot to tell the state about this. That is why we are moving to waive readings. Speaking of which, I will move to waive second and third reading.
Second.
So,
Yeah, but
Yeah,
just
second.
for the record, we weren't the only ones.
yeah, as our legal counsel said, some 20 other municipalities who were doing their first TIF rodeo also missed the deadline, so.
All right, so does anybody have any questions before I go into roll call? Okay. Councilperson McNamara.
Aye.
Councilperson Bruger.
Aye.
Councilperson Cost.
Aye.
Councilperson Cameron.
Aye.
Councilperson Tresta. Aye. And Council President Wolf.
Aye.
All right, having waived the second and third readings, I move that we pass this as an emergency.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, Madam Mayor.
All right, Councilperson Bruder,
Aye.
Councilperson Cost,
Aye.
Councilperson McNamara,
Aye.
Council President Wolf,
Aye.
Councilperson Tresta. Aye. Councilperson Cameron.
Aye.
All right. That is moved and passed. Awesome, getting business done. And lastly, Resolution 2022-34, a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds and declaring an emergency. That is also a first reading and has been read. So ends legislation.
Okay, thank you for that long list. Next meeting is November 17th, so we intend to read these for the second time on November 17th.
Which is next Thursday.
Next Thursday, same time, same place. Okay, old business. Anybody with old business? Anybody with new business? Okay, I just have one little thing to say. Tonight's meeting recordings will be posted on Monday, as tomorrow is a holiday and our offices are closed. So we will, it is live on Facebook, people can watch it there. But as you know, our administrative assistant posts everything online. Typically, we try to have it done first thing tomorrow morning. It will be done first thing Monday morning.
Thanks for all your hard work.
All right, move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Let's go.
What if I abstention from ending the meeting today?
Close your,